How many times have you heard, "We have a strong culture of giving feedback," but you've never received any feedback? This is a common problem in organizations. Here are a few ways to create a culture of feedback in your organization. First, provide training. Everything I learned about giving feedback, I learned from the Manager Tools podcast. You can find them at manager-tools.com or in any of your favorite podcast applications. They have a very simple formula that works for every type of feedback. It starts with asking if you can give someone feedback. May I give you feedback? This is particularly important when you're giving constructive feedback because the recipient might not be in a good mental or physical space to take the feedback in a positive way. Then you simply state the behavior and the consequence. When you do X behavior, Y happens. Now, behaviors are words people say, how they say them, their facial expressions, their body language, their work product, which is quality, quantity, accuracy, timeliness, documents, relationships. Then you say, here's what happens, and you describe the impact. So when you do X, Y happens. And then you close with, how could you do this differently? Or, thank you, keep up the great work. Now for negative feedback, you want them to suggest the change. Now you practice only giving positive feedback. Here are some examples. When you spoke up in the meeting and shared that you had a similar challenge as Joe, it validated his statements and made the team think far more deeply about this problem. Thank you for speaking up. Or, when you finished that certification, you really demonstrated your passion for learning and growth. Keep up the great work. Or, when you turned in that feedback I needed on time, it made me look good to my manager. I really appreciate that. Keep up the great work. Or, when you give me feedback, it helps me grow. I really appreciate that. Or, when you wash the dishes, it gives me more time to relax a bit in the evenings. Thank you. Or when you change my oil, it tells me that you care about me. Thank you. Once you get the formula right, you'll automatically begin to see things in behaviors and outcomes. It also helps you reduce your judgment as well. You'll be thinking, how do I express that as a behavior instead of, wow, that guy's a jerk? For example, when you roll your eyes in the meeting is an example of a behavior. When you raise your voice, when you talk over people, when you cut people off, or outcomes. It makes people disengaged and we get fewer ideas. It makes the team defensive. It shuts down the conversation. So for negative feedback, you always ask them to come up with a solution. You could say, how could you do that differently next time? Or what would help you do it differently next time? Remember, only give negative or constructive feedback in private. Praise in public, redirect in private. Ask for specific feedback. It's far easier for people to respond to a specific question. For example, what's one thing that would make my presentation better next time? Or what's one thing that you recommend that I repeat next time I give that presentation? Now for timing. Ask before the meeting or presentation so people can be thinking about the feedback that they want to give you during those. Consider the rose and thorn approach. So before the meeting or presentation, agree with another person whose feedback you're seeking to give you one thing that you did really well in the meeting or presentation and one thing that would make your next meeting even better. Then practice giving positive feedback using the formula. The rest will come naturally. As a side benefit, giving positive feedback will also help your team feel valued for the work they do. There is no downside to doing it. What's the best feedback you've been given? Share your stories in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like it, share it with your colleagues, and follow for more insights.